once again, tell me how this whole buckets of money thing works.
There's 3 different types of buckets that we can characterize all the assets into for distribution. And we want to help people understand that there's primarily 3 buckets. And we want to focus on what the distribution rate is going to look like as it relates to where those monies sit in relation to the asset class. So the 3 different types of buckets are always taxed, partially taxed, and never taxed, or tax-free.
Let's get into the partially taxed bucket.
Sure. Well, thanks, Stacey. Let me take that one. That's kind of a 50-50 shot. This is a bucket of money in which you don't take a tax deduction on when you put the money in.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so you've paid your taxes on your investment piece of this, but it's going to grow. Well, we hope it's going to grow.
Right.
It's going to grow over time, and some of this you are also going to have paid taxes on as it's grown. But a bigger part of that is going to be when you sell these assets, you're going to have to realize gains at that time, and if you held the asset long enough, those are called capital gains. Now, that's a preferred tax. That's a better tax than what we all pay on an ordinary basis. So this would be things like mutual funds, stocks, bonds, things you could also own in the always tax bucket. But this is one where you choose to make the investment after you paid your taxes. Certificates of deposit, it could be real estate, it could be just about any gold, silver, any investment that's out there. The key is you've already paid your taxes on the investment part of this. Okay. Now, in the example we're going to talk about today, we're going to assume that as you take money out of this bucket, half of it is money you've already paid taxes on, and half is what you haven't yet. Okay?
Okay.
All right, so let's use the same distribution rate we talked about with the always tax bucket, 8%. And just to remind everybody, we have no fleeting ideas that you may ever earn 8%.
Right,
okay?
yeah.
You might earn 12, you might earn 3, you might lose 15.
Sure.
Okay, but let's talk about distributing or taking out 8%.
Okay.
Has nothing to do with what you're earning. So if we had $1 million in this bucket and we took out 8%, again, that's the same $80,000.
$80,000, yep.
Now, $80,000 is not all taxable because some of that is a return of your money.
Yeah.
Okay, remember you pay taxes on half. So when you take out $80,000, the first $40,000 is going to be tax-free.
Okay.
And it's tax-free because you've already paid the taxes on it.
Yeah.
Which leaves $40,000, which is taxable.
Okay.
Okay. Now, because you've held these assets for a longer period of time, or a long period of time, more than a year, you get to pay what's called capital gains tax. Now, sometimes people think capital gains tax is somewhat of a penalty. It's more than your ordinary income tax. Is not true. Okay. And we're going to use a capital gains rate today of 20%.
Okay.
So if $40,000 is subject to capital gains tax at 20%, that's $8,000.
Okay.
Okay. So now let's count what you actually get to spend. From the $80,000 distribution, you get to spend the return of your 40, the growth on the 40 minus the $8,000 of tax.
Okay.
So you add that up, you have $72,000. Now the question is...
That's much better than the first scenario.
That's much better than our last program.
That's the question.
When we talked about the always tax, that same distribution rate of 8%, you ended up with spendable money of $52,000.
Right.
Here you have spendable money of $72,000. Which would you prefer, Stacy?
I would like the $72,000 spendable.
Yeah, and see, this is, again, an example of one of the phrases we've used in the past, that where your money is may be more important than what it earns. Because we haven't talked about what your money earned.
That's true.
It's the same $1 million, but I get more in one situation than I get in the other. Now, we talked a little bit about a stealth tax last time. Because you put so much money on your income tax return, there's a little bit of a stealth tax here too. So John, why don't you tell them about what happens?
So in relation to the stealth tax, or what we like to call the how dare you tax, based on this, with part of the money being tax-free, or what we call cash flow, and $40,000 of it being reportable at the capital gains rate, your Social Security is taxed at 50% in relation to this.
Wow.
So even though we have more spendable income,
Yeah.
right, net spendable income, 50% of your Social Security is taxable versus 85% because of the
Right.
position of where the assets are held.
Okay.
In relation to distribution versus cash flow versus retirement income, which is another whole conversation around retirement income. If you have the retirement income, it's going to reflect and show up on the 1040. Mm-hmm. The cash flow is just a tax-free event of money that you're going to distribute because you've already contributed to the plan up to your cost
Yeah.
basis, right? So as it relates to Social Security, it's still a better deal,
Yeah.
right? It's still 50% is better than 85%,
85, yeah.
but it's still on how dare you tax in relation to how dare you be responsible, how dare you save, and we're going to take your Social Security and tax it with what Brian said with representation.
Right.
John, say it one more time for our listeners, because why is it only 50 in this situation instead of 85, what we talked about in our last program?
So again, it goes back to the distribution and where the assets are categorized as it relates to cash flow versus retirement income. So the retirement cash flow is not reported on your 1040, which is your cost basis, the initial 40,000.
Right.
So the other 40,000 is reportable because it's a capital gains event. And so as it relates to the measure of Social Security tax, you're only having $32,000 of reportable income on your 1040, which lowers the taxable event on your Social Security to 50%. Because if you have over $44,000 of reportable income,
Right.
retirement income,
Yeah.
85% of your Social Security is taxable, which we discussed as the always tax bucket. But now if you drop a lower or you drop a level, now the Social Security level drops. It's still taxable,
Yeah.
right? But at a much lower rate.
Lower rate.
And that's the biggest thing as it relates to what we're talking about with our clients is looking at the assets and understanding how the distribution plays out from a tax perspective.
Yeah, and again, once again, it's another example of where your money is, maybe more important than what it earns, and in this situation, where it lands in your tax return,
Right.
or at all. You see, in this situation, if we can get the taxes on your Social Security down from 85% subject to tax to 50% subject to tax, well, we're better. Still don't like having to pay taxes on half my Social Security because I've been taxed on that before.
Right.
You know, here I'm getting taxed again, but again, that's
Yeah.
how dare you have made plans for
I know.
yourself
Yeah.
when your neighbor maybe hasn't made plans, and we need to help them out.
And it goes back to, I just want to bring this last point in, is I've never met with a client that told me that they'd rather have $52,000 of spendable income versus 72.
Right. If they did, you're like, I could see why you need a financial planner.
Now, I think it's good, too, that we let our listeners know, too, that maybe they want to listen, make sure they listen next time, because next time we're going to talk about the never tax
The
bucket.
never tax bucket.
Yeah, I'm liking the way these buckets are progressing.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think most people are in the always taxed bucket when they're planning for retirement. They don't know that there's other buckets.
Because that's what we're told.
Yeah.
That's what we're told.
Yeah.
It's the
that's what we're
it's the
told.
BS. It's the belief
It's
system.
the belief system,
Right.
and it's just, do what the masses do, but trying to get a different result is a definition of insanity we all know of, but yet it's what the financial institutions and the government wants us to do, so that's who's promoting the messages.
Absolutely. So if people want to meet with you guys and find out more about their retirement and help plan their retirement, how can they get a hold of you guys?
They can call our office at 701-223-1000, or they can look on the web at www.srfinancial.net.
And the meetings are relatively easy and quick, your initial meeting, right, with them? You just kind of want to see where they're at.
The first meeting is just to really get an understanding of where they're at. It's not even about, the planning process and what we do. It's really helping clients, giving us the information to their belief systems, what's important to them, where they're at, how they think around money, and then we just kind of roll up our sleeves and dig in and start educating. So it's a process. It's not a transactional
Right.
type plan at all.
I'm not going to turn around my finances on our first meeting.
No.
You may be frustrated with us in some ways in that we're going to take our time. We're not in a hurry because we have to come to an understanding of who you are
Right.
before we can understand what your finances are.
Yeah.
'Cause that's very important. We're very much interested in a relationship with our clients because we want to walk with them throughout all these choices they have in their life. when it
Well,
comes
and
to
as a
money.
client, I don't want somebody that's just interested in my money and my portfolio. I want somebody that's interested in me.
And it just also goes to the education that we have to provide. We go so in depth versus just
Yeah.
trying to say, where's your money at? How much you have? Move it to us.
Where can
do
we
a lot
roll
better.
things over? Where can we
Right.
put stuff? Okay, thanks for
Yeah,
coming
and
in.
frankly, if all we do is help you find a new set of investments, all we're doing is rearranging the deck chairs on your Titanic. Your boat is going down. You just may be in a different share. What we have to do is help you,
You get
get
a better
new boat.
lifeboat.
You get a different view on the way down.
Different
So,
cruise boat.
so on the serious note,
Yeah.
this is a process.
It is.
And so, we need to spend the time to educate and help our clients truly understand where they sit, and as it relates to what their belief system is, and helps us guide what kind of conversations that we need to have to help educate them and coach them.
Right.
So once again, what's your phone number if people want to schedule an appointment with you guys?
701-223-1000.